Welcome to the Broadway Podcast, the musical theater history podcast where a couple of doctors sit around and talk about Broadway. I'm your co-host, Dr. Kristin Stultz Pressley, joined as always by Dr. Tracey Brent-Chessum. And Tracey, this week we have a big monster Broadway hit to discuss.
We do, and such a Broadway hit that I'm irked and irritated that for some reason most of the cast album is blacked out on Apple iTunes, and I don't know why. I don't know why it's just me, but you can only hear like 4 songs, and I'm irritated about that.
Interesting.
We haven't even told you what it is yet. Death Becomes Her.
Yes.
Based on the 1992 film, but it is a great big hit. And,
it is a great big hit.
You know, it's something I've been chomping the bit to get my hands on, and it's been really frustrating because I was like, what? Don't tease me like that, Apple.
I know. I
was like, I pay you a lot of money every month to get streaming rights to this stuff, and you won't give me all of this one, and I'm very upset about it.
But that is really interesting. I've not encountered one, once the cast album is out, it's out, right? That's so interesting.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I can't listen to the whole thing. If I'm just doing something, it's just something I'm doing technically wrong, like with my setup.
Someone will log have to in. That's what it is.
I know how to do that part of it.
Oh my goodness. This one is one, it will surprise no one to hear. I have not seen, but really want to see, particularly after my friend Chris Jones, not my friend, but I wish he were because we agree on a lot. Chris Jones, writing for the Chicago Tribune, said it is for good time seekers having fun with a fresh, live, and mercifully arch take on beloved but wheezing material that is so politically incorrect as to fail the entire class.
Love it.
That sounds like my kind of night.
Yes, it does. So it does.
I'm all for it. So, of course, this one starts with a film. Where have we heard that before? And this particular
in the
film,
90s.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing a lot of that right now.
We're doing a lot of those. This particular film was written by David Koepp and Martin Donovan about 2 women who are enamored with the same men competitive over this guy, Ernest, as the name says it all, right? And you've got these 2 women who are devoted to remaining young, right? They are all about the fountain of youth. Mm-hmm. And so this film comes out in 1992. It stars Goldie Hawn as a writer. It stars Bruce Willis, like I said, as Ernest, and it stars Meryl Streep as Madeline Ashton, who is a Broadway actor. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. And it also features Isabella Rossellini, who was huge in the 90s. Yeah. More known for her modeling than for her acting, but every now and then you'd see her in a movie, and this indeed is one of them. She's the one, in fact, who kind of held the fountain of youth that Madeline and Helen, the 2 characters played by Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn, go to in search of, eternal beauty. And it was directed by someone we've talked about before on the Dr. Broadway podcast, Robert Zemeckis, the director of Back to the Future.
Yeah, I was going to say it, and then I was like, oh, wait, am I wrong?
No, that's it. That's it. The Back to the Future trilogy. Mm-hmm. So this film is produced by Universal Pictures. It grosses more than $150 million, which is the modern equivalent of $350 million. And it's groundbreaking, ironically enough, because if you go back and watch clips today, you'll realize how much things have changed. But it was groundbreaking at the time in 1992 when it premiered for its use of computer-generated effects. So we start to see CGI. And of course, if you know the film, then you know this is used when there's a giant hole through Goldie Hawn's stomach, or when Meryl Streep's head is on backwards and she has to stretch out her neck. It is a very dark comedy, to say the least. I remember seeing it in the theater, and I don't know that I've seen it again. I remember thinking it was funny. I would have been 15 when it came out. I remember thinking it was funny, but that was kind of the end of it for me, right? It wasn't, 15 years old is not the target market for a film about 2 aging friends.
But
and so it didn't really stick with me.
A bit of a cult following
1,000%.
You know,
Absolutely.
as the generations move along. Yeah.
Yeah. No
and Meryl
question.
Streep's, like, I mean, everybody loves Meryl Streep. Everybody's going back and revisiting, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, look at this!"
Right.
So, I mean,
right.
It's
That's
a
very
great
true.
time for this to come back.
Absolutely, because she is still going strong and making movie after movie after movie. Most recently, Devil Wears Prada 2, which just came out. Goldie Hawn, of course, seems like one of those actors who will live forever. And particularly at this time, she was churning out movie after movie after movie in the late 80s and early 90s. So it was a big blockbuster. I mean,
it really was.
You know, it was a big deal. And it even, you know, I mentioned its use of computer generated effects. It won an Academy Award, which is shocking to think of this little silly dark comedy winning an Academy Award. But in fact, it did, because that's how groundbreaking those computer generated effects were. So
it's always funny to me, like when you look back at these, like, oh, these, you know, it wins for special effects, and you look now and you go,
oh yeah,
oh dear,
yes, exactly.
That was not. That, yeah, it's like
not all that special.
Yeah, it's like showing the first Star Wars trilogy to somebody and you know, being like, they're like, this is not a sci-fi movie. This is something you made in your backyard. Right?
That's right.
Like,
exactly.
No, this was very groundbreaking at the time.
Oh,
okay.
Mind blowing.
Like, no.
Mind blowing. Yeah. So this film, if you know it, it actually begins with a show card that says Broadway 1978. So it opens with a musical. Meryl Streep is an aging star, and she's starring in a musical called Songbird. And in fact, the opening number is her performing a song from this show. But before you get to her, it starts kind of, you know, the scene kind of starts with the skyline of New York and then zooms in on the theater. And before you ever see Meryl Streep singing, you see people, aggravated patrons, leaving the theater. Oh, and they're just leaving in droves. And one woman says to her date, Madeline Ashton, talk about waking the dead, which sets the tone for the whole movie, right? Yeah. So right there we go in, you know, as the camera continues to zoom in, and then finally we get that opening number from Meryl Streep. Suddenly we already have the setup of she's past her prime, even though she certainly doesn't look it. I will say that. She looks fantastic. So it opens with a Broadway musical, meaning it's not a huge leap to think eventually this will be adapted. And in fact, for a long time, it's discussed as one that's ripe for adaptation. We've talked about several of those movies. Sometimes there are some that you're like, this one just makes sense. Of course, you're going to turn it into a musical. Others, you think, why would you turn that into a musical? Like Once or The Band's Visit, and then they go up and win a Tony Award for
it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, right, like, exactly, exactly. There truly is no rhyme or reason to what hits and what doesn't. And so this one is discussed, you know, like I said, it opens with a song and a Broadway show, so why not turn it into a Broadway musical? It's produced by Universal Pictures, which should ring a bell for any of you Wicked lovers, because Universal produced Wicked on Broadway. And that was really their big explosion onto the theater scene. This film is in their catalog, so you know they're talking about, maybe this one should be the next one. Maybe this one should be the next one. And in 2017, it is announced that this one is indeed the next one. It's announced that Kristin Chenoweth is actually going to star as Madeline Ashton, that Meryl Streep role. Yeah. And there's never any announcement made at this point as to who the Helen character is going to be. That's the role played by Goldie Hawn. But some speculate, probably wishful thinking, but nevertheless, it makes sense given we've got Kristin Chenoweth and we've got Universal Pictures. Some speculate perhaps it could be Idina Menzel, and they're getting the gang back together. You know, the Wicked crew is getting back together.
Yeah, to recreate the magic.
Yeah, exactly. But regardless of who's going to play opposite Kristin Chenoweth, there is a lot of excitement as people begin to realize, hey, this is a show with two female leads. Like, we don't see that a lot. And so the fact that this has two super strong roles for women, puts it alongside shows, again, like Wicked, but Sideshow, which starred Alice Ripley and Emily Skinner, about conjoined twins, based on a true story. City of Angels.
That's a trippy musical, my goodness.
It is indeed.
Well, it's not that the musical is trippy. It's just a trippy story. So
it is very trippy. It is very trippy. Whew. And these girls, well, were part of a sideshow. I don't know. You can't call it anything else.
Yeah,
and they traveled.
Based on a true story.
It is indeed. And I believe one, if not both of them, were married. At least they both had romantic partners.
Yeah.
And one of which was played on Broadway, I think, by Norm Lewis, if I'm not mistaken. At least, I think he was.
Yes, and he was the romantic interest. I don't think they ever actually got together in the musical.
Okay,
but Norm Lewis was.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a big deal, right? Regardless of who's going to play opposite Kristin Chenoweth, it's a big deal. And of course, furthering the speculation that Idina Menzel will be playing that Goldie Hawn Helen role, it's announced that Mark Platt will produce. Now, again, we've talked about Mark Platt before, right? Yeah. He has been producing in and around Hollywood for years and years and years and years. He is then the man who produces Wicked on Broadway in 2003. He also produces his son, Ben Platt, and who we talked about in season 1, I believe. And so he's coming on to produce. This is his first stage credit since Wicked. So it's been a minute since he's produced for Broadway. He's been busy with other projects, but nevertheless hasn't produced another full musical for Broadway. So here he is back and ready to go.
Universal has a weird setup there, doesn't he? Don't they?
Who's that?
Well, it's not like Disney that has like their theatrical arm.
That's right.
Yeah. Platt kind of straddles.
He does. He goes back and forth. You're
mediums,
absolutely right.
Which is interesting. So.
Yep, you're absolutely right. So along with Kristin Chenoweth starring, Mark Platt producing, Christopher Gattelli is going to direct. Now, Christopher Gattelli has been known on Broadway as he's very similar resume to a lot of the great choreographer directors of these days. I think of Susan Stroman and Jerry Mitchell, both of whom we could say this exact same thing about, where they start as a dancer, then they apprentice themselves to a great director, choreographer, and then, start choreographing on their own and ultimately take on the directing role. He was known as a performer. He started then as a choreographer. He choreographed Newsies and SpongeBob SquarePants and the Lincoln Center revival of My Fair Lady, The Cher Show. A number of pretty heavy lifting shows in terms of dance. And he was ready, like Jerry Mitchell had been with Legally Blonde, he was ready to take on directing. And so this is his first full directing credit. He's done some benefit concerts that he's directed, but that's a much different animal than developing and helming your own show. But he gets his chance with Death Becomes Her. And, more recently, he has been represented on Broadway with the recently opened, I'm going to say it wrong, Schmigadoon. And
have you heard a lot about Schmigadoon yet?
Well, I have, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I've heard a lot about it by way of social media and the fact that I follow Anna Gasteyer.
Oh, I know. That has been hysterical.
And September L. Davis, her alter ego.
Her alter ego, who maintains her alter ego maintains that her role has been unjustly taken from her by Anna Gasteyer.
Well, they went with stunt casting, not talent. And she understands that's the business, right?
Yeah. It was just the most hilarious thing, because it took me a minute, because that was all I was getting was the alter ego. September? Is that what
September L. Davis, yes.
So that's all I was getting. And I was like, this can't be real. I mean, I've met people like this, but this can't be real.
Oh, yes.
And I was like,
very authentically drawn, that's for sure.
And then all of a sudden it was like, okay. Yeah. You're going after Anna Guest. Okay. And I see what's happening here.
Yes. So anyway, for those who don't know, I recommend you check it out for yourself.
Yeah.
But Anna Gasteyer, who was on Saturday Night Live, and is a Broadway star in her own right. She's done 6 shows, as she says.
Yeah.
And she was on the Today Show, and they were talking about this battle with her alter ego, September L. Davis, and she was like, but I've done 6 shows on Broadway.
So I don't know what this
she's
lady's talking about.
That's right. She's a Broadway star in her own right, but she has crafted this spectacular alter ego named September L. Davis. And you can see her on Instagram and or TikTok, and I suggest that you track her down. She actually showed up at the Schmigadoon opening night and walked the red carpet and talked about her beef with Anna Gasteyer, whom she calls Andy Gastower, or she always gets her name wrong. It's hilarious. So that's how I've heard about Schmigadoon, is by following September's experience of it.
In the new era of Broadway marketing, it's not so much about marketing the show. It's about finding that TikTok kind of meme that everybody's following. And Anna Gasteyer, actually, she knows how to do that well, doesn't she?
She nailed it, man. She nailed it. I love it. And if you scroll back before the Schmigadoon thing, you'll see her with her music director, September L. Davis, with her music director getting ready to perform a concert, and she's performing like songs from The Little Mermaid. You got to scroll way back to like maybe last November when she started posting this. But it is hilarious. It is so funny. It is so funny. So that's how I've followed Schmigadoon. But I do think it could be just my algorithm knows what I like, but I think it's gotten a lot of good press.
Yeah, lots of Broadway is now becoming, I know we're going down a bunny trail here, y'all. I'm sorry.
But it's an important one. It's relevant.
So much of what Broadway is becoming is trying to kind of tap into those new audiences, not through traditional marketing like we used to. The biggest new breakthrough is kind of the actors themselves creating the market for it. Yeah. Which is both brilliant and taxing for the artists.
Of course.
So it's yet another thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch how we teach musical theater majors, today, and how it's like you're following on TikTok, you're following on, your social media network is valuable to the point where you've got lots of people who are questioning why they need to put down on audition forms how many followers on Instagram.
I know. I was going to say that. Yeah.
It's both problematic and brilliant at the same time. But
it's a built-in audience.
It kind of shows you that there are some pitfalls there, but
absolutely, because it suggests that we're not always casting because of, as September L. Davis would say, they did stunt casting instead of going on talent, and I understand that. That's the business, she would say.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if we're looking at follower count, we're not necessarily getting the best person for the job in terms of who would play the role the best, right? We're getting the person who will bring in the most ticket buyers,
and that's the thought behind it too, which is hard because it's like, as we know, Kristin and I were having this conversation today. Who has time to do all this content creation?
Oh my gosh, it's
like,
debilitating.
y'all, I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
Well, exactly. When I have margins of time, I don't want to spend 2 hours making a TikTok video.
Yeah.
Right? I want to watch a movie with my children, or like you said, go to bed. Just call it a night.
Yeah, and so much of this is like making sure that you individually are creating content every day at the right day so the algorithm picks it up. And
that's right.
It ends up being another job on top of another job.
It is a full-time job. Indeed. So. Absolutely it is. So that is indeed a rabbit trail, but it's a relevant one because now we've got marketing agents. There's always been PR agencies that specialize in Broadway, but we're beginning to see some that are looking at digital marketing for Broadway. And so it's if you're going to play in the world today, you got to have it, but it's something new for Broadway. So, and the September L. Davis, Anna Gasteyer dichotomy is worth study and just enjoying. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, so Christopher Gattelli, director of Schmigadoon, director of Anna Gasteyer, specifically in Schmigadoon, and is going to direct. Mark Platt will produce. Kristen Chenoweth will star. Then they bring in a guy named Marco Panette to write the libretto. He's never worked on Broadway before, though he grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, so not too far outside of New York City, loving theater. And he always thought he would write for Broadway. He went to the Tisch School for the Arts at NYU. He was a finalist in the Young Playwrights Festival. But around the time that he was finishing up at NYU, he sold a script to the sitcom Kate and Allie, which was one of my favorites in the 80s, which starred Jane Curtin and Susan St. James.
Right.
Remember them? As two single moms in New York City?
Yeah.
I loved that show. I loved it. It came on Monday nights. I'll never forget. I loved it. I didn't miss it. But he sells a script to them, and suddenly all of his Broadway hopes and New York dreams are abandoned because he follows the money out to Los Angeles. And while he's there, he writes and creates lots of sitcoms like Caroline in the City, which starred Leah Thompson. If we're going to talk about Back to the Future, let's bring her into the mix.
Let's
there she is.
Back in.
That's right. And then Ugly Betty, which was that star America Ferrera?
Yes.
Is that how you pronounce it? So he was a showrunner and developer for lots of sitcoms. But Death Becomes Her is what pulled him back to New York and became, really decades into a very successful career as a television and film writer. It pulls him back home towards New York. So he's going to write the libretto. Julia Madison and Noel Carey are going to write the music and lyrics. They too, this is their first writing stint on Broadway. Madison has acted on Broadway in the revival of Godspell, but this is her debut as a writer. She and Noel Carey met as musical theater undergrads at Emerson College and became buddies, and then got the opportunity to write the show together, which they wrote over the pandemic via the voice notes apps on their phone. So yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
Julia Madison was in New York. She would come up with the melody and the lyrics and, sing it into her phone or whatever, and then text that to Noel Carey, who was in upstate New York, as so many New Yorkers fled upstate during COVID. And then he would do the chords and the motifs and the arranging and all of that. And so they came up with the score together. And the whole creative team, as they were developing this show, it reminded me a lot of, if you've listened to the episode about Beetlejuice, right? Where we said Alex Timbers, who directed that show, did not want to do a scene by scene recreation of the film, but he wanted to kind of continue the story. And these two, or the creative team of this show, understood, as all of these folks do, that there are certain moments that you have to have. They're going to expect these iconic moments on screen. That giant circle cut out of Goldie Hawn's stomach. You've probably seen the same thing of Jennifer Simard, right? Or the "that was rude" moment that's been all over social media. Inspired by Goldie Hawn saying a very similar line in the film. So they knew that they had certain iconic moments, but they also were given a lot of latitude to explore things that were cut from the film, right? They called it, they got to musicalize some neuroses and go bigger than we could ever imagine. One thing, though, that they really had to think on was the idea of a love story. They knew that all musicals had to have a love story, right? Or great musicals seem to have them, with few exceptions. And Christopher Gattelli, director, was the one who realized, the love story in this musical has nothing to do with Ernest, right? And Ernest is played in the premiere, the original Broadway company, by Christopher Siebert. And it has nothing to do with him. It has to do with these two women who really, underneath all of their fighting each other, and cat fighting, literally, they really have an affection for each other. And that's what they had to focus on. I listened to an interview with the two leads who ended up playing it on Broadway. Kristen Chenoweth dropped out, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. And the role was taken over by Megan Hilty, and then opposite her was Jennifer Simard. And the two of them were saying, if you hate somebody, you just avoid them, right? But these two women don't avoid each other. And that's because at the bottom of it, maybe way deep down, there's an affection that they have for each other.
Yeah.
And so that was the focus. That was the love story that the writers focused on.
Yeah, and it's interesting it's becoming a trope. And I know that we talked about this when we talked about Wicked, is in the absence of the boy-girl love story that's so classic. Like,
yes, right.
If you have two female leads, like, how do you meet that need of the audience? You've got Elphaba and Glinda, you've got Anna and Elsa now,
That's true, yes.
Like, in all of these shows that have two really, really powerhouse women, they all do kind of come back to this very interesting, for lack of a better term, like sibling relationship sometimes. Yes, it's friendship, but it is more than that. There is that attachment. Yeah. And it seems to serve the stories pretty well.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're all kind of ending up that way.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how more and more kind of happen. Like, what do you do if it's two guy leads?
Right.
Like, what, is there more than that? Which just,
I mean, I'm sure there are, if we thought long enough, we could come up with two guy leads, but I'm trying to think of one,
like the
off
buddy,
the top of my head.
buddy, it's just,
The Outsiders.
Yeah,
has
The Outsiders.
A lot of boys.
It's interesting to see just how quickly tropes happen.
Yeah.
I think. And so, I mean, that me being the structuralist that I am,
yes,
I keep coming back to this over and over. I was like, wow, that's apparently what we're landing on here. We can do two women in these powerful roles, but underneath everything, they have to put it back to war paint. Was that what it was called?
Yes.
Was it called war paint?
Yes.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
The two, like, cosmetic CEOs.
Estee Lauder.
Yes.
And
fighting against it was like Patti LuPone and somebody else, right?
Yes.
Something like that. Same kind of thing.
Yes. I'm going to look it up to be sure.
So, like, it's just very interesting to me that today, even in trying to construct a musical, it's like we need some sort of love story there. Like, where is that love story, or what's going to fill that need? And I think that is the important point here, is that Gattelli is saying we need to fill that need of these two people who actually have a lot of mutual respect and affection for one another, that just want the same things and are going to battle for it.
Right. Right. And just to put a pin on your conversation about war paint, it is Patti LuPone and Christine Ebersole. And
just masterful. Think about that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Not many people got to see it either. I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's Elizabeth Arden and Helena Rubinstein. Those are the two female entrepreneurs. But it focuses on their lives and rivalry. That's a great parallel. That would be a really interesting comparison.
Trope.
So
Trope.
Yeah.
We're making a trope here, friends. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And so, they focus on that relationship, and that's all that you see. Ernest doesn't really even show up. Like, if you're just looking for, looking at, as we've been talking about, social media for this show, you don't really see Ernest. You don't see Christopher Sieber's face show up a whole lot, but you see a lot of Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard, right? Yeah. And they too, we talk about Anna Gasteyer playing with social media. Check out the Death Becomes Her TikTok, and in particular, Jennifer Simard's, because she is active on social media. And her, that was rude. I mean, that has, who knows how many millions of plays that's gotten on TikTok. just really, that's
Some
another
people are
piece
just
of that.
very good at it.
I know.
Know what to do and how to do it. And
yes. I'm beginning to think those people are not responsible for the day in and day out care of young children. That's what I'm beginning to realize, is because that's what keeps me from being more active. Life, right? Life.
Makes it hard.
It does. It does. So they recreate these iconic moments. They play a lot with the story, but they recreate the iconic moments. And one of them is that very famous fall down the stairs.
Yes.
Which is, played often. You'll see this in a movie montage, right? It may have nothing to do with the movie Death Becomes Her, but if there's a montage of great films, you will often see that moment.
Yeah.
So they knew they had to plug that in. And there's a great video on the Death Becomes Her YouTube page where you can watch how they spent weeks and weeks and weeks. Of course, as you can imagine, they don't have CGI on stage.
No.
So they've got to find a way that they can choreograph this so that the performer can do it safely. And here's the amazing thing. They had the actress recorded lots of sounds of her screaming so that they could sync it with the falling down the stairs of an Olympic gymnast. So it is literally an Olympic gymnast on Broadway who takes that fall every night. Now, it appears like it's the actress, right? And it sounds like it's the actress because of the sound that they've pre-recorded.
Now we have
but it is in fact,
on
that's
Broadway.
right. It's a stuntman. it's a highly trained stuntman too, doing that stunt down the stairs.
But also, you haven't heard of it, like that stuntman getting hurt, and that's
huge. Very true.
Because
Absolutely.
the last time we had stuntmen on Broadway, we heard a whole lot about it, and
we did indeed.
Kudos to Death Becomes Her.
Yes, I think they have learned from those mistakes, right?
No one's breaking their back during the show,
dropping into the orchestra pit
or things like that
from the lighting grid.
Exactly.
I laugh, but only because he's okay. Right?
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, if you're wondering what we're talking about, check out Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark, and how one of the many Spider-Men in the show was hanging by his feet and fell headfirst into the orchestra pit. Yeah. Check that out.
And
I'm sure you'll find something on it. Yes, he did. And he's fine.
Not
fully
not
mobile,
paralyzed.
thank God. Right.
Thank
Fully
God.
mobile,
But
thank God. Still.
I don't want to watch that live.
No.
I don't want to do that. So, good
in
job.
Fact,
Death Becomes Her.
That's right. Well done. Well done. In fact, that was, golly, I mean, I think I was in grad school, so that would have been 03, 04-ish. And I remember writing a blog post about it. That's how,
was it that
incensed
early?
I was. Yes. Yeah, it was, because I believe it was. I'll have to find that blog post. Let's see.
I mean, everybody was talking about.
I was like, when can we accept that film can do things theater cannot?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
There is a line, y'all.
Yes.
There has to be.
When did the guy get hurt?
Oh, gosh.
This is real-time research in Spider-Man. His name was Christopher something. Yeah. And I've since seen him on tour because I was like, oh, look at you. Off the Dark. I was so glad to see he was okay.
Well, I mean, in the first two previews, one of the actresses got hurt, and we knew, so everybody was following it for that reason, because it was a technical.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on there, and it just ended up being like this is the show where everyone gets hurt, and
yes,
why?
And it cost $30 million
and couldn't tour.
Yeah.
Because of how big it was. But that is the big, what are the ethics of this?
Right. So, because we've gone all the way down this rabbit trail, let me tell you, it was a stunt actor named Christopher Tierney who was seriously injured, and it was December 20th, 2010. So I was wrong on my timing. Okay. It must have been, it was grad school at Georgia, not grad school at Kentucky. I was doing my PhD then. So He fell more than 30 feet into the orchestra pit at the Foxwoods Theater due to a snapped safety tether, resulting in fractured skull, broken ribs, and other injuries. And if you have a stronger constitution than I do, you can watch it on YouTube. Yeah. But no, thank you.
No, I mean,
I will sit that one out.
Before I learned to be careful about what was on my feed, like I did watch it. Just because it came up and I was like, what is going on? And then it was like, what did I just watch?
I can't. Yeah.
Because it was really grainy because it's still 2010.
2010. It was a I'm sure it was somebody's BlackBerry, which was awful for photos.
And it's in a dark theater, but it's heart stopping. So,
for sure.
Yeah, if you're doing a show like Spider-Man or like Death Becomes Her, where, these iconic moments are very CGI driven in these films. Like, what is our ethical responsibilities to making sure people stay safe?
Yeah, right. And so this one, I think we're beginning to take it more seriously, which is awesome. So the show is ready. Oh, but let me go back first to Kristin Chenoweth. Kristin Chenoweth steps aside. Of course, that's what makes room for Megan Hilty, who had played most famously on the television show Smash. Not the Broadway adaptation of Smash, but on the television show that launched that all.
And she steps aside for Queen of Versailles.
Queen of Versailles. Speaking of getting the Wicked team back together, Stephen Schwartz is going to write a musical with Kristin Chenoweth in mind. She remembers the success that they had with Wicked and decides to abandon Death Becomes Her and take up Queen of Versailles, which ends up being a pretty tragic decision.
There.
yeah, that maybe wasn't the best call.
I think we talked about it. I don't even remember what episode it was, but like when it happened, which was last fall.
Yes.
And so
the show premiered like November.
And then shut down.
And closed early. It was supposed to close in January. It closed early, December, like before Christmas, like December 21st.
Yeah.
But interestingly, this has worked in reverse for Chenoweth. She left Thoroughly Modern Millie. She wasn't Millie.
She was the, yeah.
I know who it was, soprano.
Yes.
Angela Christian, I think, was the one who ended up playing it on Broadway. I can't remember the name of the character, but she left that to take Wicked, and that worked out for her. So, she's gone both ways in choosing to leave one show for another. And you know what? At the end of the day,
it always works out.
She's done very well. It's all good. It's all good.
And I'm happy for Megan Hilty on this one.
Yeah.
We've been looking for something to like
showcase her talents
forever. So
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the show opens in May of 2024 in Chicago. Now, we keep talking about Chicago more and more and more. We're seeing that as a world premiere city. Jerry Mitchell, whom I mentioned already, his kind of career parallels with Christopher Catelli. He very famously opens his shows in Chicago, loves that audience there. And so we're seeing more and more of it. And this is certainly one of them. Opens in May of 2024. My man, Chris Jones, the reviewer for the Chicago Times, calls the show genuinely funny. But he says there's much work to be done overall if the show is to appeal to people who don't have prior affection for the source. In other words, if you got people who don't know the movie, they're going to be completely lost here. And so the creative team in really short order go away and do the work and make it fit. Chris Jones said that the women's hatred wasn't strong enough to carry the show, and that the Madeline Ashton character played by Megan Hilty was underwritten, and they needed to really beef up that role because Megan Hilty could pull it off and deserved that, and they go away, they do the work and make it happen.
So is this one the like, okay, now we have to have the underpinning love story? I'm
not exactly sure, but it would make sense, that would be like when that, I couldn't tell you the exact moment. Yeah. Yep.
Because expectation. And I think that's another, again, we talk about this all the time. There's these audience expectation. In a movie, we don't have that. They can just hate each other and go their separate ways. But we expect things to wrap up and have a finale.
Resolve. Yes.
Like there needs to be a finale where everyone is on stage,
that's right. Exactly.
Together.
Yep, that's right. That's an expectation for sure. So the show, when I say they turn it around in short order, it plays Chicago in the late spring, early summer of 2024, and then opens on Broadway by November of 2024.
That's quick.
That's a really quick turnaround. Now, back in the olden days, in the early days of Broadway, that would have been a very normal turnaround. But in these days, you tend to give yourself sometimes a year, but it all rises and falls on when is a theater available, when is the right, when are the Tonys, when's Tony season, blah, 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 blah. So there are a lot of moving pieces. So it may have just been something as simple as we have the theater we want, chop, chop, get to it, But they got it ready. And that's when Chris Jones sees it again. And he says, this show does not give a fig about dramaturgical rule keeping. I love that. I love that. And then that's when he writes that review that I started the episode off with, where he says, this is about good time seekers having fun with a fresh, live, and mercifully arch take on a beloved but wheezing material. It's so politically incorrect as to fail the entire class. It's entertaining.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's fun and entertaining and all those things. It's nominated for 9 Tony Awards. It is the talk of the town, and 2 years later remains the talk of the town. And yet, in spite of those 9 Tony nominations, including nominations for Gattelli and, all up and down the board, it only wins 1, and that's for Paul Tazewell's costumes.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. So Chris Jones's insight there is really, I think, it's prescient for today in the fact that it's like this is not something where there's a moral lesson necessarily
fair.
In the middle of it.
Good point.
Like, I mean, if you look at everything else on Broadway, where you're like, Hamilton obviously has a very overt,
absolutely it does,
cultural message. Even something like Ragtime, very, very big message, right? And this
big
is
time.
Like, you're seeing kind of this move towards, I think this is something that you said during our discussion on cabaret at one point, the new cabaret. It's just this idea that it's like, I don't really want to have to think about, I'm like oversaturated with political and social commentary right now. And I don't want to have to deal with it one more time. Let's go see something funny. That's what we're seeing. So and there are it is interesting to look at how culture responds to tumultuous times politically, and sometimes, well, almost always, that's what we want is escape, right? We want Mamma Mia after 9/11. Yeah. If it's like, if there's too much going on in the great wide world, this is what we revert to.
Yeah.
Right? If we're feeling overwhelmed with it, not like in a way where, end of the 90s, we needed to be challenged. We needed like a ragtime or something like that.
That's right.
A very, very like, what, make them hear you. You need to step up and be counted kind of a thing. Whereas these are the shows where it's like people are exhausted
that's right.
of having to think about it and make those kinds of decisions. Nobody needs to make me like make them hear you right now. Like I'm doing my job. I've been making them hear me, and now I am tired. And
they're not listening.
No one's listening at the moment. So the one thing, and this is something to just kind of think about over time, is that it's these moments that I think are so fascinating, but they are the shows that tend to kind of get lost in history. Because they're just a entertaining kind of blip on the radar sometimes.
Right.
And so it's interesting to see where this is going to land as far as, because what wins the Tony in?
The 2024, well, it would have been 2025. So it was Outsiders in 24.
And then what won last year? I forget.
Best musical Tony. Let's see. Maybe Happy Ending.
Maybe Happy Ending. Yeah. Another one that is not as is very very entertaining. But again, that one, Maybe Happy Ending has that. It's all about AI, right? What, like, are we thinking ahead of ourselves, but is wrapped up in a love story. So you don't feel it quite in the same way, but it's just interesting to see, like, these are the shows that are going to play for over, like, years and years and years, but, and maybe so huge, but are we going to talk about them as important on the theater timeline overall? I think it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how that works. Because we thought the same about Cats, didn't we? Like, Cats, everybody was like, it's a show about cats. Like, everyone is flocking to see this. Yes, it's cool, wonderful, but nobody will be talking about it for years. And now we have Cats the Jellicle Ball, and now we're talking about it again.
And people are going nuts for it.
Yeah. I have a former student in that one. And
oh, do you? Cool.
She's just fabulous. She went on as Grisabella for 2 days in a row, and all of the cohorts that are in New York all just flocked in to see her, and it was, it's a fun moment. But what I liked the most about that is that something that we thought in the 80s was just like, the world is ending. Yeah. The musical theater is ending.
Is there nothing else to write about?
Is there nothing else that we can do? This is a show about cats that has all of a sudden has become something that is relevant. So, is this going to be something that'll kind of come back around again and still hit all those right buttons? We don't know. Let's see. What makes history fun.
And that's what we always say, right? This is why we can't really say where is this going to be in the greater pantheon of musical theater, because it premiered 2 years ago. So give us 18 more years, and maybe then we'll have more to say about it. Yeah. But at least now you can go into the show knowing a little bit more about the development of it. And that's the goal
have
here.
A good time. Yeah. Because my goodness, it's going to be have a great thing. And you'll know that no one died falling down the staircase.
No one died. It was an Olympic
gymnast. So you don't have to worry about that.
And he's A-okay. So just relax. It's just relax. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Dr. Broadway podcast. Tune in for our next episode. We'll be discussing Legally Blonde. It's been a minute since that one has come up, and it is back on tour. So until then, connect with us via email at hello@drbroadway.com or on Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok, and at Dr. Bway Podcast.